Imagine the scene. It's 2 in the morning. The house is silent, but your body cannot rest. Your heart races as if you had just run a marathon. Your breath shortens, your muscles tighten, as if a predator were lurking. But there is nothing. No noise, no danger, no reason. And yet, something inside you screams that something is wrong. Maybe you felt this in a simple meeting, trying to speak in public, or even in a casual gathering with friends. Anxiety arrives like a shadow that offers no explanation, but invades every part of you. The question becomes inevitable. Why does the body react as if it were at war when life seems calm? This is the contradiction many carry without an answer, the feeling of fighting an invisible enemy. And this is where we begin to uncover the secret the mind holds, because this anxiety which seems meaningless is often the echo of something much deeper, something born long before adulthood, in a time when you didn't even have the awareness to name what you felt. Many anxious adults share a silent past, a terrain marked by experiences rarely remembered clearly, yet shaping every cell of the body. Imagine a child walking through the house, trying not to make a sound, avoiding any gesture that could spark an outburst. Imagine a small heart learning to live on the edge, always alert to heavy footsteps, to the raised tone of voice, to the door that slams. That child didn't learn how to play, but how to survive. Growing up in such an environment is like carrying an internal alarm that never switches off. It doesn't matter if the danger has disappeared. The child's brain learned that the world is unpredictable, that something could go wrong at any moment. This hypervigilance doesn't fade with age. It transforms into adult anxiety, into a body that can never relax, into a mind that never finds rest. When we speak of anxiety, we are often not speaking of a problem of the present, but of a ghost of childhood that continues to speak in silence within us. Science explains this process clearly. The child's brain is highly plastic, able to shape itself to the environment to maximize survival. When exposed to constant fear, it creates connections that prioritize vigilance and rapid response to danger. This mechanism is called learned hypervigilance. The body releases constant doses of cortisol and adrenaline, preparing to fight or flee, even when no battle is at hand. This is why many anxious adults feel their bodies are always on alert, as if a threat were about to emerge. It is not weakness, but a survival reflex, an ancient program designed to protect a defenseless child. Understanding this is revolutionary because it shifts perspective. Anxiety is not a flaw, but a sign that the body fulfilled its mission to protect. The problem is that the system was never turned off, even after the danger was gone. In adulthood, this mechanism manifests in subtle but devastating ways. The anxious person often avoids social situations, fears constant judgment, feels their heart race during interviews, or even when facing small challenges. Others live with body pain, migraines, chronic insomnia, as if their body were carrying an endless battle. Peace feels strange, rest feels threatening, and even silence can be interpreted as a sign of impending danger. It's as if the mind had learned to distrust well-being itself. This creates a cruel cycle. The more we try to control anxiety, the stronger it grows, because it doesn't appear out of nowhere, but is a mechanism deeply rooted in body memory. Often, this anxiety leads to frustration, shame, and guilt, making one believe they are broken, when in reality, they are simply living with the echo of an unresolved past. Here arises the inevitable question: why did a child have to live this way? Why did someone so small have to learn to defend themselves from the world instead of simply exploring it? The answer is harsh. It was not a choice. It was biology. The body shielded the small self from the chaos around it. The anxiety you feel today is, in fact, proof of survival. Kierkegaard, the Danish philosopher, once said that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. What he meant is that anxiety reveals the awareness of existence, the weight of what could be, and of what we don't yet know how to handle. In the case of trauma, anxiety also reveals that there was a fight for life, a silent cry for self-preservation. When you see your anxiety this way, not as an enemy but as testimony of survival, something begins to change. When this pattern is not recognized, it repeats like an endless echo. The child who grew up in constant alert becomes the adult who lives expecting the ground to collapse at any moment. In relationships, this translates into constant insecurity, fear of abandonment, difficulty trusting. At work, it becomes suffocating perfectionism, panic over mistakes, the sense of never being good enough. Even when everything seems fine, the anxious mind anticipates disaster. What if it goes wrong? What if I lose? What if they reject me? That "what if" becomes the mantra of anxiety, a cycle of anticipation that drains vital energy. The most painful part is that often those who suffer from anxiety don't realize where this prison comes from. They believe it is simply a personal trait, an inevitable fate. But in truth, it is the continuation of an adaptation that began too early. You live as if defending yourself from ghosts, without realizing that the war is already over. And that is the paradox. Anxiety is both protection and prison, but there is a way forward. The first key to healing is to see anxiety not as an enemy, but as a message. It is the body saying, "I don't feel safe." And when we recognize that, we can begin to re-educate our nervous system. This is where practices such as shadow work, meditation, somatic therapy, and emotional regulation techniques come in. The work is not to forcefully eliminate anxiety, but to create new experiences of safety, so the body can understand that it is no longer in danger. Imagine looking at your anxiety and saying, "I hear you. I know you are trying to protect me, but now I can take care of myself." This internal dialogue is powerful because it changes the relationship with the symptom. You stop fighting against yourself and begin to embrace the wounded parts of your story. This is the first step, transforming anxiety from enemy into guide, from burden into signal, from shadow into a portal for healing. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself traveling back in time to that moment when your inner child was scared, alone, confused. Maybe they were hiding in their room, crying softly, or trying to smile so as not to bother anyone. Look at that child and ask, what did you need to hear to feel at peace? The answer may come in the form of simple words. You are safe. It's not your fault. You don't have to predict everything. This practice, as symbolic as it is real, creates powerful catharsis. Many cry, many tremble, many feel a relief they never thought possible. Because deep down, that child never stopped living within you. Anxiety is their voice asking for care. When you embrace them, something transforms. Fear begins to dissolve, and life begins to make space for rest, trust, and even joy. It is like opening the window of a dark room and finally allowing the light to enter. What psychology describes, philosophy illuminates. Kierkegaard said, "Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom." And Carl Jung reminded us that what is not brought to consciousness returns as fate. Anxiety is exactly that, a call from the unconscious, a reminder that something has not been healed. It is not just a symptom, but a signal. When we see it that way, it stops being only pain and becomes an invitation to transform life, to build a new relationship with yourself. It is not about erasing the past, but about giving it new meaning. Philosophy and neuroscience meet here. Both show us that anxiety is part of the human condition, but also a portal to transformation. As Nietzsche said, "What does not destroy me makes me stronger." Anxiety, when understood, ceases to be enemy and becomes teacher. So remember, the anxiety you feel is not a flaw, not a sign of weakness, and certainly not something that defines you. It is simply proof that you survived an environment that demanded too much from you when you were still small. But now as an adult, you have something you never had before. Choice. You can rewrite the way your body reacts, you can teach your mind to trust again, you can create the safety that was missing in the past. Anxiety is the remnant of a battle won, not of a defeat, and it is precisely for that reason that it can be transformed into strength. Instead of running from it, use it as a guide. Instead of feeling captive, become the author of your story. You are not your anxiety. You are the proof that even the oldest pain can be transformed into awareness, into freedom, and into a full life. And this journey begins now.